I was asked the other day about advocacy and how do I get doctors to listen to me. And one of the things we must realize when we are chronically ill or living with mental health diagnoses is that doctors are human, and some are going to listen and some are not. So I know that in Canada it is within your right to ask for a second opinion. I do not know the laws for other countries, but I would encourage you to look into your medical rights first and foremost to find out what kinds of things you are entitled to for your medical care. Having that under your belt can definitely help you to advocate for yourself better, especially if it's like it says here that I'm entitled to a second opinion, like in Canada. So I'm pursuing a second opinion because I don't feel that one doctor has actually listened to me, nor has she really treated me, in my opinion, like a person. I feel like I have been treated like a number, and I'm not okay with that. So when you're advocating for yourself, what does that actually look like? So when you go to the doctor, I think I've mentioned it before, if you write down the things that you want to discuss or thing that you want to discuss with your doctor before the visit, I would definitely recommend doing that. That's something I have done myself numerous times. I've written things down so that I don't forget it. I put it in my phone, in my calendar. My calendar is a mess on my phone, but it has so many different things in there that helps me to stay on track and stay focused and stay in that moment while I'm at the doctor's office, instead of having my mind shift to different avenues of thought. So first and foremost, writing a list. Write the things that you want to discuss with your doctor. Secondly, I would encourage you to keep an open mind, but also recognize that doctors are human. So some doctors are going to listen to you and some are not, and that's just part of the experience. And sadly, that's something that we have to deal with. We have to deal with those doctors that are not going to believe our diagnosis or are going to fight us on a diagnosis. I've mentioned it numerous times to people and online that I had a doctor that had a positive test result telling me that I did not have mast cell activation syndrome when I was already diagnosed in a different area of Canada with a positive test result. So him having that positive test result and then basically lying to me didn't help the situation. I refuse to see that doctor. I will never go back to see that doctor because he doesn't even believe that mast cell activation exists. So if you come across that kind of thing, my best advice to you is to get a referral to a different doctor in that specialty, because if that doctor is not going to listen to you and is going to fight you every time you come in to talk about your symptoms, it's going to make you tired. It's going to make you want to give up, and you shouldn't have to feel that way. Doctors are supposed to do no harm, correct? And sometimes they do. And it may be unintentional, but at the same time, we need to look out for ourselves. And that's where advocacy comes in. So that means taking those steps, being like, this doctor does not treat me with respect. This doctor does not view me as a human. They view me as a number. You know, taking those things into account, going back to your general practitioner, at least here in Canada, excuse me, and getting a referral to a new doctor so that you can then get the care that you need. Now for myself, I've been through a lot of doctors because I have a lot of conditions and I had cancer. And so all of that stuff has put me in the medical system, and I've been in it religiously since 2008 and working on advocacy for myself. So another thing I would encourage you to do is do not give up on yourself. Do not give up on pursuing a diagnosis, because it is hard, it is challenging, and it is work. And you need to put the work in. No one else is going to do the work for you. That's the sad reality of it. I'm sure there's advocates out there that can do that kind of stuff, but for myself, I can't do that for anyone else other than doing videos like this, because this is what my limitations allow me to do. So I have had to take it upon myself to not give up. And when I've gotten to that point of appointment fatigue, and I've been so tired and so exhausted from doctor's appointments after tests, after doctor's appointments and tests, that I've needed to take a break. And I'll take an entire week off of just going to appointments or having them on the phone, because sometimes you get burnt out. So knowing when you're getting to that burnout stage of appointment fatigue is also important for advocating for yourself. And I can't stress it enough. If you feel like a doctor is not listening to you, find a different doctor. Sometimes people feel loyal to a doctor, like, oh, I've had this doctor for however long. Like, I've known people that have had doctors for 10 years, but they never listened to them. And then the person I'm talking to is just frustrated all the time because their doctor's not listening to their symptoms. Their doctor's not helping to relieve their pain. Their doctor isn't helping to help them pursue a diagnosis. Like, it's just this gatekeeping that's happening. And when that kind of stuff is happening, it's going to be detrimental to the patient. So that's why you need to notice for yourself, if I'm not being listened to, like, you need to ask yourself that question. Is this doctor treating me like a human? Is this doctor listening to what I'm saying? Does this doctor even believe in this disease that I have? And if you're not feeling like a person, and if you're not feeling heard or seen, you need to find a doctor that's going to see you and hear you and look into things for you. And I understand they went to medical school, they did all the studying and all that kind of stuff, but there are limitations to knowledge. That's why rare diseases are called orphan diseases. There's no massive projects happening, not that I'm aware of, and I don't know the entire world, but where's all the research for all of the rare, complex illness of the orphan diseases? So if doctors are willing to just write everyone off as them being a medical horse, which is like being everyone's the same, instead of looking for those zebras, those people that have those rare and complex illnesses, those rare and complex illness people are going to keep falling through the cracks. So you need to do the work. Trust me, I know it's exhausting. I have burnt myself out. I have had appointment fatigue. I've had fatigue just from, living, because that's what chronic illness does. But I know at the end of the day, I don't have anyone that's going to do any of that stuff for me. I have to do it all. I have to remember all of my medical history, because at the end of the day, I'm the one they're going to ask. So that also comes into play. When you go to the ER, you have to advocate for yourself. If you have mast cell activation, you need to tell them what kinds of things you can and cannot have, that you have multiple allergies and reactions to various things that they could inject you with to save your own life. It can be exhausting, but it's also liberating. Because for myself, when I finally got to those diagnoses, I was like, I can name these things that are trying to destroy me, and I felt like I had power over them because I had a name for them. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, mast cell activation syndrome, and hyperadrenergic postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And while they're all a mouthful, and they all bring a plethora of challenges to my life, without having those diagnoses, I would have no idea what's going on with my body. I didn't quit. From 2009 to 2012 was when I had so many symptoms of rashes and dislocations and so many things that were happening to my body, where I was vomiting up foam, as an example, which was very disgusting. And it's allergic foam, which is something I've discussed with a fellow mast cell patient. Those kinds of things are scary. If you're having a rash that's lasting for 6 months and no doctors can help you, it really makes you wonder, what does the medical system actually know about what's going on with my body? And so I kept pushing, and I kept pushing. And one doctor kept saying, oh, it's probably just the residuals from cancer. I was like, I don't think so. This is something else. There's something wrong. So I kept pushing. And then I got sent to an internist. So an internist is a doctor that looks into stuff. They basically take all of the pieces of the puzzle and try to puzzle piece it together. I think I said that right. And that is the doctor that helped me get to my diagnoses, because she was the one that didn't quit on me. And it took me years to get to her, to be diagnosed with one thing after another thing after another thing. And people around me wanted me to get better. I wanted to get better too. But the reality of my situation and what people want for me in my situation are two separately different things. And I continued to advocate for myself through that entire ordeal. I supported myself mentally through that entire ordeal. I support myself still to this day through all of the things that life has come my way. So that is another part of being an advocate, is you must take care of yourself, but you must also protect yourself. You need to have boundaries with yourself. Knowing when to rest, knowing when to push forward, knowing that you need to call that doctor, knowing that you need to make more appointments because you don't feel right, that you know something is wrong. So if you want doctors to listen to you, don't stop saying what is going on, what is wrong with your body, and find one that will listen, because not all of them will. And it's a big problem. I've encountered many doctors that didn't listen, that tried to write it off as whatever kind of simple fix prescription thing they could write, but it never went away. And the reason it never went away is because the diseases don't ever go away. So it was realizing these are lifelong things. I need to learn to manage my time. I need to do chunk pacing, even with my advocacy, which is working towards making sure that I still have good medical care, because that's never going to stop. I'm always going to have to go to the doctor. I'm always going to have to get prescription renewals. I'm probably going to have to try new medications that'll cause major allergic reactions. That is life for me. But I have to do it because no one else will. So I hope this helped kind of like maybe simplify advocacy. I'm not sure. Hopefully I didn't confuse people, but I hope that it helped. I would encourage you to keep advocating for yourself. And if you have suggestions for how to advocate for yourself or for someone that you care about, please comment them down below. But as someone who hasn't had other people advocate for me, I have to do it myself. And I had to be prepared to support myself through that. And I will always support myself because no one else will. Not in the way that I can. I'm not saying that to be crass or be an asshole. I'm just at that point in my life where I know what I need and I can offer myself everything that I need. And I don't need it from someone else because I am self-sufficient in that regard. And it took me a lot of time, a lot of therapy, and a lot of working on myself to come to that conclusion. And I'm immensely grateful to my therapist who has been there for me in some of my darkest times and listened to me just be a negative mess. And that is why I 100% say do therapy, because that has also helped me with my advocacy for myself, because that is something I have needed to do for me, to have reminders of things to do for me. What makes me happy? What keeps me going? Therapy has brought me back to those places to remind me, like, hey, this is how you cope. I even have a sticky note that says how I cope. And then it's got like clay, art, drawing, writing, making videos for YouTube, making stop motion, like all of these kinds of different things, because my life is a life of art, as we've discussed. Anyways, thank you so much for being here. I'll let you go now. I've rambled on here for a bit. Take good care. And don't forget, advocating for you is a vital aspect of life when you're chronically ill, and it can be trying, but I believe in you. Don't give up. You got this.